The interesting story, NC State women are in the Final Four. UConn men's and women's teams are in the Final Four. NC State men's and women are in the Final Four. I don't know if that's ever happened before where two schools have both had both men and women in the Final Four at the same time. But UConn's men and women's are in the Final Four as well as NC State. And speaking of NC State, on the men's side, the Cinderella story of NC State continues. And you all know I'm a Tar Heel, and so it pains me a little bit. It pains me. It pains me. My boys, I got to be fair. Alabama packed my boys up. I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit. Nate Oates and company packed my boys up, sent us on back to Chapel Hill. But the ACC is still representing. And what a story. NC State, the 11 seed, they have had a run. They entered the ACC tournament, needing to win the ACC tournament to get into the NCAA. They would have been out. Their coach on the brink of firing. Their coach of being fired. He's on the brink of being fired. They get into the ACC tournament. They win 5 games and 5 days. They beat my Tar Heels in the ACC championship to get an automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. I believe they played in the playoff in one of the playing games as an 11 seed and won that game. But what a fantastic and historical moment for NC State. But I do want to I want to highlight something because we get a lot of times into this talk of an NC State, their men's team has been dubbing the Why Not Us. Shout out to my guy, Lavelle Moulton, the head coach at North Carolina Central in North Carolina. He's been on Twitter. He's a Raleigh native, grew up in Raleigh, supports Raleigh, is the head coach at NC Central. But NC Central, Chris Paul's company had directed a documentary about them a year or so ago called Why Not Us? So now he's on Twitter and he's like, listen, y'all can borrow Why Not Us, but y'all going to have to send us a little bit of that money that y'all making in the tournament because we own the rights to Why Not Us. Y'all making T-shirts and y'all made that y'all slogan, but we got the copyrights to Why Not Us from our documentary that their company did. But one of the things that I do want to talk about, and I think this is interesting. This is very, very, very interesting because we talk a lot about players and NIL deals and how it's changed college athletics in general. But I don't think we talk enough because here's always my pushback as someone who played 2 sports at a Division I level. And yes, coaching is important, but for a long time, coaches have made millions and millions and millions. And the NCAA has made millions and billions on the backs of players. And players, they get the short end of the stick for a long time, and they also get ridiculed and criticized from fans and media alike when they leave these schools, when they make commitments and decommit, when they come for a year and enter the transfer portal. But we never say anything about, when one coach gets fired, they go and hire another coach right now. That coach leaves that school. We never talk about those coaches who sat in those living rooms and made those promises to those kids and said, I'm going to help raise your young woman or your young man into an adult, and they leave for the next high-paying job. Or we never talk about just how much money these coaches actually make. I mean, we joke about it, even at A&M with Jimbo Fisher. They fired Jimbo Fisher, and they owed Jimbo Fisher $78 million to do nothing, to literally do nothing. Vanderbilt fired Tar Heel alum Jerry Stackhouse. They owe him $15 million. Then all that money is made on the back of these athletes. And so Kevin Keats, he's the head coach at NC State. And this is a guy who was on the brink of being fired. on the brink of being fired. And had not his player hit a shot that sent the game in the overtime versus Virginia, where they go on and beat Virginia, and ended up propelling them to win the ACC tournament, he would be out of a job. And over the last 17 days, he's gone from that close from being out of a job. Let me give you some of the bonuses that Kevin Keith has got. He went from probably being fired to a buzzer beater versus Virginia to winning the ACC championship, and now he finds his team in the Final Four. And this is the first time they've been in the Final Four since 1983. Jim Valvano, they beat that Houston team. That's one of the Jim Valvano highlights. But by winning the ACC, he got an automatic 2-year contract extension. So that pushes his current contract to 2030. So automatically he got that. He got a $500,000 raise that he'll start getting next season, and that will run, that $500,000 would be $500,000 between every single year added onto his contract to 2030. So here are some of the bonuses that he also got. $100,000 for winning the ACC championship. He got $25,000 for getting an automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. He got another $25,000 for winning his first game in the NCAA tournament. He got $50,000 for every win that the team made after their first victory. He got $50,000 for just beating Purdue. He'll get an additional $150,000 if they win the national championship. In addition to that, if they win the national championship, that bonus that I said that he got in the $500,000 raise, that moves to $600,000 for the duration every year on his contract. And that doesn't even count. He's almost up for 3 more bonuses for the academics for these college athletes. Every single year, coaches, if you have a portion of the team that does a certain a certain GPA, and your academic standards are up there, you get $20,000, $25,000. So he has made a boatload of money. Now, I'm not saying that Kevin Keith doesn't deserve this. Kevin Keith ain't take one shot. Kevin Keith ain't shot one layup. Kevin Keith ain't made one defensive slide, ain't boxed out one time. He's been the coach, and that matters. But before we go and we ostracize these athletes for wanting and trying to get all the money that they can, just know that there are a bunch of coaches who are making a boatload of money off the backs of these players. And NC State, their players, you look at DJ Burns, the big boy, the big fella, who, by the way, Jim Nagy, who is the senior guy who runs the Senior Bowl, and he's been on Twitter. He's like, man, this dude could play in the the NFL. And he said even there's a bunch of GMs that are saying, like, if this NBA thing don't work out for him, I would love to invite him to camp. Some say try him at left tackle because he's about 6'8", 6'9". I don't care what they say in the program. He ain't 279. He ain't 279. He 3 bills on a light day. He 3 bills after a good boo-boo. When you take that good boo-boo and you be like, whew, I'm 10 pounds lighter, on one of them days he 3 bills. That boy 330. He 330 easy. 6'9", 330. Might be a left tackle. Might be a plug up the middle defensive tackle. But now, before we just start throwing anybody in the NFL, you got to have that dog in you now. You got to have a little dog in you, especially if you're going to play in them trenches. See, it ain't like Gates. It ain't like Gonzalez. It ain't like Jimmy Graham. It ain't like Jesse Holley. When you play on that perimeter, when you got to get down there in them trenches with them real hogs, that's a different monster. That's a different monster. But this NC State team, man, in the NCAA men's side, I do still believe that the women have a bigger name right now. but you're starting to see the storylines happen. UConn, they're on the verge, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see nobody beating them bros. UConn? Man, shout out to Hurley. He's a Jersey dude. He got them play like they from Jersey. But UConn, monsters. Purdue's finally gotten the I don't know if they gotten the respect, but they've finally done enough that people say, you know what, about time. About time. Y'all have had really good teams, number one seeds. They've finally gotten in there. Of course, the NC State story, what they've done in the last month and a half with their record run. And then you got the football school. You got Alabama in the Final Four. So the men's side are gaining some storylines. They don't have the star power. They don't have the Caitlin Clark. They don't have the Juju Watkins. They don't have the Angel Reese. They don't have Dawn Staley and company. They don't have those names, the Paige Beckers of the world. And I think that's the difference. I think the men's game has great storylines, but I think the women's game have bigger superstars right now. But it's all good for us as fans because we get to watch either way. But right now, to me, I'm still taking the women's NCAA tournament runs is a little bit more interesting to me than the men's.